What a time for me as I remember why. Oh, what you know her name, you know her name, but I was never gonna be the same. What a lady was but I don't want to even when she
What up, Ben? Welcome to the Greatness Machine, my friend. This is Darius Mirshahzadeh. I'm your host, and we have none other than Ben Schemper to the show. Welcome, my friend.
Good to be here.
Dude, I think we heard there's a delay when I put the music on because we were about 2 seconds behind the whole time. That was awesome. Guys, by the way, we have Ben Schemper, the man, here today. We are going to be talking about, but I wish we could have recorded the pre-show because we were talking about caves in Trump Tower, QAnon. I don't know if we'll go there or not, but who knows? But before we get there, I do want to talk about the format of the show. The format of the show is quite simple. I'm bringing together change makers from all around the world who are living their passion to create greatness. I am rusty. It's been a long weekend. Way too many beers I've had. But we are bringing together change makers from all over the world who are living their passions to create greatness. And we have none other than my main man, Ben Schemper. But before we get into Ben, I do want to talk about a couple of things if you are new to live streaming. First of all, we're live. So start watch parties. We like this stuff to go viral, people to see what's going on. Ask us questions. I do have my team on standby. They'll be shooting questions over to us. So yeah, don't be afraid. Just jump in, ask whatever questions you might have. But before we get started, I do want to go and let you know a little bit about our guest today. So lucky I got introduced to Ben through a friend of mine and my book manager, Amber Billhauer. And really, guys, Ben's an entrepreneur, founder and CEO of Abundant. He's a DJ and generally all around crushing it to create value and badassness in the world. He's working with some of the biggest and brightest organizations out there, including Square, Compass, Salesforce, and many others. And really proud to have you on the show, man. Thanks for being here.
It's great to be here.
So, man, are you back in the Bay? Because it looks like you are in a San Francisco house. From what
I am in a sunset house at the moment. That's right. We got the surf closet in the middle.
Nice.
And yeah, I was in the Midwest for 5 months when shit started getting weird with the pandemic. I was like, I'm getting out of here. I've got some parents with Midwestern lake homes. Like, I'm gonna go be in nature and be free for a few months. So yeah, I'm getting used to city life right now.
So how's it feel to be back? Like, are you like is it? I mean, I was just in San Francisco last week.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's a very different city right now. But for you to be back after living there, going to the Midwest, and you were in, I think, Michigan, is that correct?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I was in on Lake Michigan, which is, like in the woods, super remote, super rural. I mean, here's the deal. Like I was afraid to come back. Not afraid. Well, maybe a little bit, but there's two things I was not looking forward to. One is just how I feel like tense and closed everybody is in this time. Like I'm all about taking precautions. We're taking precautions in our family, distancing, wearing masks, things like that. But I feel like everybody's systems are full of fear in the city. And so I wasn't looking forward to like being around that energy. But number two, I'm just like, all right, like if you're in a city, what I love about San Francisco is the amazing people that you can meet through networking. The proximity to being able to be in person with our clients and like some of the world's most influential companies. I love the music. I love the music scene. I love the art and creativity in the Bay. I love the nature. I'm like, well, most of that stuff I can't take advantage of right now. So why be in a city? And coming back, honestly, I'm recognizing that a lot of that I actually can do. I just have to be the one to lead those interactions and do them safely. But like I've been having some great distanced walks in Golden Gate Park with clients and new people who I'm meeting. And I met you over Zoom. And I was like, dude, Darius is a super cool fucking guy. He doesn't even live in the city, But obviously you can meet people and build relationships virtually, but I just love like the in-person aspect, which is why I was in the city. So I'm finding it easier than I thought. So
How long have you been in the city for?
5 years or 4 years.
Oh, cool. Okay, nice. Yeah, I mean, what a bunch of work to do for a hoax. I mean, you know, like to have to distance and leave the city for something that's so fake as COVID. But that's but I make lots of jokes about that. It's not much of a joke because it's, you know, people are dying about it. But yeah, it is interesting having been, you know, I was in the city, and I'm in Texas now. I live in Austin, Texas, and Texas had to get punched in the face with massive resurgence when they opened up, and then shut back down more or less. But it was interesting to see a lot of mask wearing. There's mask wearing here now, but in June when I was here, like my family and I, you know, I lived in the Bay Area for 17 years, so I'm pretty like I believe data when I see it, and I question, you know, I might question science like in an intelligent way, but I don't question that science exists, right? So, and one of
may look into the methods behind data, but as long as the methods are sound, then the data is sound.
Totally, and I may even reach the conclusion that it's inconclusive, but I will not say like, oh, Fauci said this and that happened instead, so it's fake. Like, you know, like I love that shit. It's like, dude, like, it's science. Like it's all about predictability with more data, right? And it's yeah, we could talk about this the entire
I'm definitely team science, just to be clear. # team science.
I'm pro science as well.
Pro science.
Like I'm very into data and historical analysis of data to predict the future. You know, I like to read stuff.
Can you be team jokes and also team science though? Is that possible?
I mean, I think totally. Like I feel like I'm totally both. You know, to the point where people get upset. You know, like I saw this thing on the Onion the other day where it said like Al Qaeda. You know, like FBI uncovers plot of Al Qaeda to do nothing and sit back and watch the demise of America or something like that, right? Which is a joke around data, right? That we're doing a bunch of stupid shit to create problems in this country without any other foreign interference. And I posted it, and some dude who I used to work for me like hammered me. He just came at me and was like, I can't believe you're making a joke about people that have killed Americans in the world, you know? And I'm like, I'm not making it. I'm like, you clearly don't understand the satire here. I'm actually making fun of our country. Like they're just the pivot point for the joke. Yeah, so it's funny. People like there's no tone in emails and in posts and shit like that. I think to be team joke, you just have to like stand your ground when someone tries to like get upset with you, you know, because people will inevitably get upset with you for making a joke about something. But I think we have to in this day and age. Like you can't just sit here and take everything so fucking seriously.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really have much more of a nuanced opinion beyond that, but I agree.
Yeah. So let's make some jokes.
Right.
But what I do want to do is like, why don't we take a step back here, because we'll talk about like a bunch of political shit this whole 45 minutes if we allow ourselves to.
Yeah, there's more important stuff than that. So
let's talk about it. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about what you're up to. So look, so you left, you came back, you got a business, and you're now. Is this your first CEO gig? Like first time founding a company, or?
Yeah. First organization I've led in this capacity. Yeah.
So give us some background, dude. How did you get into this? Like you've been in the Bay Area for a few years. I know that you've been out of school for longer than that, and you've been doing a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, like walk me through your background. Like how did you get to where you're at right now?
So the first piece that's important, like to understand how I'm at today, is that so I'm in a position. I'm 31, and I'm in a position where I am helping leaders of large organizations become more evolved in the way that they lead and the way that they bring their culture together, the way that they co-create vision, values, similar to what you're up to, and helping them execute for their possibility rather than their problems, aligned with the vision and values. And to be doing that at my age, it's kind of like, why do I have the license for that? Like, how did I get here? working with an organization like Square and helping them do work like that. And where it starts is I got started early, and not necessarily started in entrepreneurship. I mean, in a way, yes, but really started in leadership early and leading teams. And so I am a product of the Cutco organization. I like to say I'm a Cutco, a part of the Cutco alumni mafia. And so when I was 18, I started selling knives, and I was really good at it. I sold $50,000 of Cutco in my first month on the job. So as an 18-year-old, I made 20 grand in my first month selling kitchen knives. And I was like, all right, this is a good idea. I'm going to keep doing this. And so I became a manager the next year. And they have this really cool program and opportunity where as a college student, you can lead your own organization. You can lead your own team. So I saved my own money. I invested $10,000 into running this business. I put out marketing and advertising, and I recruited my own sales team. I had to interview them. I had to train them. And I was even better at that than I was at selling knives. My first year as a manager, my reps sold more on average than almost any of the other 800 managers in the company. And I was 19. So I was like, okay, I'm clearly good at this. And then the next year, I ended up running the most successful office ever in the history of the organization. And I was 20. So I had a lot of success early on, and I was really committed. I was passionate about giving others an opportunity, which is what I love about leading people in sales. You help others step into the opportunity to give themselves freedom and to like write their own story. So I fell in love with that and was good at it, and then just wanted to explore and learn and understand more about it. And so, I sought out other teachers. I worked with Tony Robbins for a year. When I was 23, I paid 120 grand to be a part of his Platinum Partnership, his highest level program, which was more than all of my money at the time. So I really, bet on myself with that. And, I sought out a lot of other just information. And basically, I like to say I got a graduate degree in leadership training, which I'm sure does exist, but I really got it through seeking out different sources. And from there, I was like, all right, I'm good at this. I'm been talking to my other peers in the world of sales. I see that like there's a lot that I understand and that I'm tapped into that they're not. So there's some value I have from the path I've chosen to walk down, from my experience and my excellence. And I want to start like I have an opportunity to start a business in that way. And so it started out as coaching, and then became a community of sales leaders. And it's just grown over the years. And I've got some partners that I work with, but yeah, today we have a community of individuals that we help in growing in their influence skill set, their leadership skill set, and also their embodiment, which is like their mindfulness, their own influence over their energy, things along those lines. And we work with some large organizations like Square and Salesforce and helping them create more aligned and co-creative culture. So that's kind of the short version of the story of how I've gotten here today.
That's really cool, man. By the way, I have a nickname for you guys, which is I take out the entire word alumni and just say Cutco Mafia.
Great,
but
yeah.
I think I was, so it's funny, when I first moved to San Francisco, I ended up meeting all these kids that went to Williams College. And I was like, and I became like an honorary Williams College alumni just because all my friends went there. And I feel like I'm meeting another group of people who I might as well have done Cutco with you guys, because I like literally am surrounded by Cutco Mafia people right now.
You basically did. I can tell. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I should have done Cutco. I was just like, sell knives door to door. That sounds fucking miserable, right? Like that was the way, because it was around when I was in college. But clearly I made a mistake there, because what I found is they do a lot of leadership development, a lot of really hardworking, mindful, I call it enlightened leaders. It seems like there's like this whole crop of enlightened leaders that have come out of that program, which is very, very cool. So, speaking of enlightened leadership, so right now you're working with these companies, you're doing, when you talked about these different paths for performance, and by the way, sometimes I think people who listen to this stuff who are not necessarily attuned to mindset And, you know, the fact that you did platinum when you were like 20 is freaking crazy. I mean, and the fact that you didn't even have enough money to do it, basically you're like, I'm going to earn the difference by the time I'm out of this thing, right? I mean, that's like essentially like, talk about betting on yourself when you're paying 6 figures at that age. And it's funny, you said something and I thought of something right away. The biggest curse and the biggest gift you could ever have is to make big money when you're really young.
Yeah.
It's a curse too, man, because it kind of mind fucks you a little bit where you're like, I have to, like, that becomes the norm. And when you don't do it, if you ever, I hope you don't ever reach a point where you're not doing that, but if you ever hit a point where you're not doing it, it's like the bar so high that you like have to fight to get back there, you know? So
yeah. It's interesting because for me, it's like, well, one, just to give a little bit more context, that was my first time ever using a credit card. And so when I was 19 and I ran my first Cutco office, it was 2008, right before the financial collapse, was at its bottom. And I got a credit card from Chase Bank as a 19-year-old that had a $15,000 credit limit. And I never used it. And I just think that's wild because today, a 19-year-old, like, there's no way you're getting a $15,000 credit limit on your credit card. No way. Absolutely no way. Like, you're getting like $500 maybe, right? Because I had zero credit history. Anyways, I remember like learning that the deposit was $15,000 to get started for the Tony Robbins Platinum Partnership. And I was like, God gave me this credit card so that I could do this program right here. Let's go. Here's the deposit. I'm going to make the rest. I'm in sales. I'll figure it out. That was basically, that was part of the thought process. But yeah, I mean, you said like, if you make a lot of money when you're young, it could be the best or worst thing that can happen to you. And I feel like for me, one of the best things that ever happened to me is I bet on myself young at such a high level. I invested into my growth at such a young age and like reaped the benefits of it. And it like conditioned me to like really see that I'm the best investment I can ever make, right? My growth, my learning. I'm the most valuable asset I will ever have. So
that's an amazing lesson to learn. See, so it's funny is I had a similar experience, except it went the other way, which is my first businesses all failed and I got crushed, right?
Right.
But and then I had to live, like when I was 20, I started my first business I did was like a multi-level marketing where we sold like how to not pay taxes, and I was 19 and I broke even on that, which wasn't so bad. The next business was when I was 21, I started an event promotion business. So essentially I threw raves, right? And what's that?
I said, I'm about it.
Yeah, no, dude, I threw some crazy parties and I lost, the first time I ever lost 100 grand was by the time I was 22. And then I went to depression around failure and had to dig myself out of failure. And that's actually why I moved to San Francisco, was that I was like, dude, I got to get I had moved home. My dad had passed away. I lost this 100 grand trying to throw this Friday night DJ party in Hollywood. And I was like, I'm out. And I moved to San Francisco. And it was the first time I realized that I needed to be in environments that made me feel inspired. Because I wasn't inspired living in Orange County at the time. So my lesson there was like, don't beat yourself up when you crash. And by the way, when I crashed, I like basically locked myself in my bedroom and read books for 5 months, and then moved to San Francisco and hustle. I had 7 side hustles, 7. And the reason I didn't have 8 was because I was like, I don't think I have enough time for 8. And my main hustle was a side hustle because I was being paid on 100% commission to trade stocks in 2001 after 9/11, which was not a good time to do that. But anyway, the point being, what's that?
It's the best time to do that.
If you want to not make money and work 7 side jobs, like I was no joke giving blood to make money. Like I'm not even exaggerating. But I lived in the avenues. I lived in 40th and Balboa, and it was a great time to be in the city. And I did learn that I had the ability to even come out of a depression and work into something that what ended up being actually a massive success. I turned that into grinding, and then I built the 40th fastest growing company in the United States out of it. So the lessons we learn are, like, to your point, it's not necessarily the money you make, it's what you learn out of leveraging that into betting on yourself. I think that's an amazing lesson to learn. We have a question though, I want to remind you from the audience. And by the way, guys, ask questions. We got Ben here. I love the fact that we're going down this idea of investing in your own self because you're your best asset. I think that's where we should really take this call, or this show. What's the number one thing you tell leaders who want to achieve their maximum potential?
What a question. Whoa. All right. I like it. I love it.
Great.
So what's the number one thing to tell a leader that they want, who wants to actualize their full potential?
Yeah, maximize. Yeah, who wants to achieve their maximum potential?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, it depends on, like, where's that leader at in their journey, and if someone's younger and they're a leader, I mean, honestly, I'd say, like, go find people who have done what you want to do, right? Like, and learn from them in some way. And the other thing I'd say is be fully present with whatever opportunity is right in front of you. So one of the things that we talk about at Abundant is that that all of us have a North Star. And I think a North Star is a concept that aligns a lot with potential, right? And so the North Star is like the guiding image for your life. It's the vision for your future that it's like the vision that you're moving towards with all of your decisions. Now, when I talk about North Star, I also talk about North Star as if you don't necessarily reach it. Like, the North Star is a star. If you use it to guide you as you're walking at night, like, you don't reach the North Star, you just move north, right? But the idea is that you have this image of your potential, this dream, this vision for what inspires you most. And then that's an orienting vision for you to make decisions from where you're at moving forward. Now, the thing about a North Star, or your potential, is that oftentimes your North Star is somewhat different than what you're doing right now, or hugely different. But that doesn't mean that you should, like, leave your job and go, like, pursue your dream. So, I think, which I see people do, and sometimes that is the right move, but I think it's really valuable to rise above your circumstances. It's one of the reasons I'm passionate about what I do, because I think a lot of companies need people to lean in and take ownership for creating culture, and not just putting that on the shoulders of their managers or their leaders. And I think everybody's North Star has an element of leadership that's a part of it, right? Like, for us to do something huge, epic, beyond our wildest dreams, like, we have to be a leader. So oftentimes the greatest thing we can do to reach our potential is ask, what's the opportunity for me to be more of a leader, being exactly where I'm at right now?
Interesting.
And the last thing I'll say is, like, all right, so we have this North Star, this image of something that feels so big that we might not ever do it actually in our lifetime. But then there's the question of, so even a way to talk about it is, like, what's your impossible moment? So for me, my impossible moment is I want to lead a music festival combined with a seminar, a conference, like, mash the two together, and for there to be 1 million people out in front of me, and I'm simultaneously DJing and giving a message at the same time, like giving an inspired message to 1 million people, right? So that's an impossible moment, to bring 1 million people together. But then the question is, like, which version of me would that be possible for? Like, who would I have to become for that to be possible, right? Oh, I'd have to build a lot of relationships with influential people to bring that many people together. I'd have to be an amazing speaker to earn that opportunity. I'd have to be a great fucking DJ if I'm DJing for 1 million people, right? And there's all these aspects that I can work on today, right? I can become a better speaker even if I'm just on a Zoom call with 10 people, right? I can have more purpose the next time I'm DJing on the beach somewhere, knowing that I'm not just DJing this party, like, I'm becoming the DJ that could one day DJ for 1 million people. If I'm having a conversation with Darius, like, maybe Darius could bring 10,000 people to that event one day. So I better explore what the relationship holds. Maybe Darius would help throw it. Who knows, right? And so there's like our North Star, our impossible moment, and then the version of us who would realize it. And we can become that person today. And so that's what I would say is like, if you want to maximize your potential, create an image of what that looks like, and then ask yourself, what's right in front of me for how I can step into being that version of myself today.
That's awesome, man. You just got me so inspired right now. Thank you for that. That was such a good share.
Pleasure. Yeah.
I'll add to that, which is something that I've realized. I have a few years on you. So one thing that I've realized, and maybe you've already realized this, but it took me a little longer to realize it. It's that how we show up to anything is how we show up to everything, right? And I know that's kind of a popular quote, but I always tell people, I started really meditating about a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, and I said, when you meditate, how you meditate is how you are living in the world, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you don't love your meditation, understand that there's work that needs to be done, and that is, by the way, that is the work. You're doing the work while you're doing that. That's the practice. But I think, to your point, and we're all guilty of this. Probably, maybe the dreamers and entrepreneurs are more guilty of it than others, but we're guilty of. And I'm as guilty as ever of this, by the way. I'm saying this, maybe I'm the most guilty of this, is I look at those end results, right? And I'm like, that North Star, I'm like, I'm going to hit that shit, right? Like, even though like the odds of doing it, A, the odds of doing it are very low. B, the way you're going to get there is probably has almost zero correlation to how you'll actually get there. And D, it's not necessarily the right way to live your life. I would say it's absolutely not the right way to live your life, is to fight and give up everything now for this thing that may or may not happen in the future, because I think you really have to enjoy the process of getting there more than anything, or else you'll never get there. You have to enjoy the process, I think, more than the destination, or else the odds of getting to that destination are literally zero. And maybe 1%, because there's always fucking luck. But
that would suck. If you did get there and you hated the process, you'd also hate the destination, right? So it's like, that's the worst thing that could happen to you, is for you to actually get there.
Well, and let me just add this, because this is where I've learned, this is where, like, I think most people don't realize this. This is the major aha moment. To your point, if you don't enjoy that process, when you get there, that is not going to be your North Star anymore. You will be at a new North Star. You will not be satisfied when you're there. And there will be a new thing you want to go do. And you'll do the exact same process of getting to the next one. Grind, not enjoy the process, get there. I've done this, by the way, like 4 or 5 times now, where I've hit these fucking insane goals. I'm telling you, like, some of the goals I've hit, people would be like, how have you hit that goal and not been stoked when you got there? And I swear to God, I'm on my 3rd one now, where I'm like, dude, I remember in 2010, sitting at lunch with this girl, and her telling me about this guy that had built $100 million company, right? And I remember, and I was running a $2 million company at the time that had been a $10 million company that got its ass kicked down to $2 million. And I remember thinking, man, if I just hit $100 million company, I've made it. Like, and without going into details of where I ended up, I'll just say I surpassed that goal. And I remember it being nothing. It being as if it might as well have been 2.1 million. It was the exact, I had probably less of a happiness than I did when I was a small company going from 2 to 5 million.
Yep.
And so I remember when that happened, I remember the first time I was like, once I make 100 grand a year, I'll be so happy. And when I hit 100 grand, I was like, the number just moved up. And I mean, it moved up. And I mean, I've had that number move on me fucking 25 times, right? And so what I've learned through the last 20 years of setting goals, hitting them, and not being at all happier is that the goal doesn't mean shit. The goal is just, to your point, it's an optimal destination. And I had this guy who I met, who I threw this event at the De Young Museum 8 years ago. His name was Kevin Jagger. And you should look him up on anyone who's watching this, look up Kevin Jagger on YouTube and TEDx Golden Gate Park. And he did this talk on, it was called The Passion of Pursuit. And he did this talk about how he quit his job at 24 as an investment banker And Kevin, if you're watching, you better fucking answer my emails and come be on the show, because I've already asked him to be on the show and he hasn't responded. His brother was on the show, but he quit his job as an iBanker, Ben, and he went and said, I'm going to go become an Olympian. And dude, he picked a sport by this whole like process. He used data. I know it's hard to use data to make decisions. He used data and picked a sport that didn't include judges, that he had the highest likeliness based off his athleticism, and it had to be in the Winter Olympics. And he became a long form, short speed, like fast, like speed skater. He had never skated before, ever. And he went from like, literally there's videos of him skating like he's like a 5-year-old to being top 20 in Canada in like 3 years. And his whole talk was like, he's like, look, on my taxi ride from the airport over here, the taxi driver asked me, what do I do for a living? I told him I was a speed skater. And he asked me if I was an Olympian. And he said, that's like someone saying I'm a real estate agent. And your next question is, are you the #1 real estate agent in the country? That's your next question. Like, and he said, I realized the odds of me actually becoming an Olympian, which by the way, he never became an Olympian. So the odds of me becoming an Olympian are almost nothing. But I had to enjoy the process. And he ended up enjoying the process of getting sponsorship and training and doing it at a high level and making friends, and all the process of trying to become an Olympian was what he actually enjoyed. And I remember sitting in this talk, dude, by the way, I curated this whole fucking thing because I was so miserable with what I had done in my career at that point. And I had done a lot at that point. And I realized, and I said to myself, man, I don't even know what that feels like to enjoy the process of doing anything. And here I am, I'm 42, I still feel the same way. It's hard for me to do that. Like right now, like if you ask me what my goals are, I'll tell them to you. And I'll tell you inside, I'm like, how am I going to make that happen? And I'm realizing that I love the process. The goal is what makes it like painful. You know what I mean?
Totally. I mean, it's like when you hit that goal and you hate the process, that's a good equation to becoming a nihilist. Because then you get there and you say, what was the point? Does it matter? Like, is there anything to this? I think there's a lot of people who have a lot of success early on, yeah. and they're like, they don't feel fulfilled from it. And they're like, well, does it even fucking matter? Like, why even try anymore? Like, why even? So, one option is choose another goal. And hopefully that's the one that makes you happy, right? Or feels like you're enough. But another option a lot of people choose is, well, you know what? I made it happen and it actually wasn't worth it. So why don't I just not go after big things anymore and just relax, take it easy, or give up. So I think there's, however you want to put it, it's important that you learn to love the journey. And what we talk about at Abundant is that the real goal is the journey. Like, you have the right goal when your goal is the process, when your goal is to enjoy the journey itself. Like, that's the goal. And so I align with that 100%. Yeah. Sorry,
go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I would say that Kevin Jagger story is awesome.
Yeah, you got to check him out. He is stud. You just made me think of something, which is I have actually created a framework, which part of it is my book essentially is how do you do it in a business, right? And it's with the intention. I did it with the intention of building a high growth company without pain, right? That was kind of like the operation. If you like, when you say the word culture, I think some people get that, and some people would like think that we're talking about, taking our employees on a silent meditation retreat, right? So
that'd be pretty sick, by the way, right?
Right. If you want to connect with people in an interesting way, correct. I think other people are like, that sounds like a waste of money, and why would we do that, right? People that are much more traditional mindset and control and like the old school way of thinking about business, when we don't humanize like performance, right? And so what I didn't do it intentionally to humanize performance. I did it just because intuitively it's where I landed, which was I want to create a core value driven organization. What I ended up getting in return, which has been where I'm in this like real juxtaposition around a life essentially, is that the guardrails I've created is purpose and values give you the boundaries.
Yes.
And when you start butting up against them, you feel pain.
Yep.
Right? And when you do that, two things. Number one, that you're not moving in the right direction. And number two, that you need to probably appreciate that box you're in when you're more centered, right? Which is, to your point, when I'm centered is when I'm enjoying the journey.
Yeah.
That's what and I think values, at least I think purpose is the North Star, and that sits above values. I think your values are these like almost like the if you think of like a wrestling ring, they're the ropes, right? And when you start bouncing against them, you've got to move out. You don't want to fly out of the box.
But some people don't have ropes, right? They don't know their values, and then they're like wrestling people in the audience, and it's like, it's like, whoops, you don't know who you're supposed to be wrestling.
Which could be awesome sometimes, but to watch the destruction of that shit. But it is not right. So my question to you, and this is where I feel like it's without question to me that you got to know those values, because then you can get much more clear on the direction you're heading, right?
Yeah.
For that process. So for me, I wrote a book about it that's coming out September 15th, that I'm all in on this, right? If you would say, Darius, what are you all in on? I'm all in on values. And then you ask me the next question, you said this right now, and I'm telling you, bro, I just had a moment. My favorite part of the show is I get to learn, right? Like, I get to learn from my guests. People are like, I do this if 0 people watch forever, just because I get to learn from guys like you, who, you've been on the earth less than I have, but you've picked up some things that I get to learn from just like anyone else, right? And so it's that I'm a nihilist, dude. Like I am my worst critic. If I treat people the opposite of the way I treat myself. And I like to lie to myself and not listen to myself.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah.
Right. And probably most of the highest performers in the world, most of them do that. Right. They beat the fuck out of themselves.
Yeah.
And what I've gotten comfortable with is when I start doing that, my red flag starts going off. I go, oh, you're lying to yourself, dude. Oh, you're fucking telling yourself you can't do something you can do. Oh, go fucking back to your values, right? So for me, it's a trigger to go back to what is me and what's real. And so my question for you is, when you're working with either for yourself or for the organizations you're working with, how do you incorporate values into that process of performance and of enjoying the journey? Like, what is your advice to having the abundant mentality, right? Because I think that what we're talking about here is it's really having this non-abundance mentality, and where we're like holding on to every last little thing to like get what we want.
Yep. So there's achievement at all costs, right? Which is the mindset of a lot of successful people, or especially early on. Like, I'm going to achieve it, whatever it takes. Like, make whatever sacrifices I have to make, I'll make them to my health, to my family, to my personal life. Like, no, I'm achieving at all costs. And sometimes the sacrifices aren't that big, or maybe it's or that dramatic, but there are real costs to achievement at all costs. And one of those big ones is on you feeling meaning and purpose in your life. So we like to flip the equation to abundant at all costs, right? And abundant is achievement from alignment, right? So there's achievement and alignment. That's what abundant is. And alignment is really your values when it comes down to it. So did you achieve from your values? And I think similarly to the way that you talk about it, I'd imagine there's a lot of alignment here. Values are the journey. When I say the journey is the goal, right? So the real goal is your values. That's more important than like, did you hit XYZ profit number or whatever, or sales result? And what I see all the time is that when people clarify and commit to their values, they end up creating and achieving beyond what they even thought was possible before. Because there's something really powerful about creating from authenticity versus just chasing a number, right? And I think in today's world, like, values are more important than ever, because it's people, like, growth is not a value.
No.
But it's like what we value more than anything else in our society, right? It's like, let's grow, let's evolve, let's innovate. Like, those aren't fucking values. There's not a deeper root or meaning in that. It's more, at this point, it's like more and more. Like, I want more of more.
Yeah.
So
how much? More.
Yeah, more.
How much?
More, how much?
More.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
total 4-letter word.
Right. And so the values are really what like ground any vision and ground any culture. And it's like, we want more of the values, right? We want the values amplified. That's what we want, really. And so, one more thing is, like I said earlier, like we help leaders with their influence, their leadership, and their embodiment, right? Influence is communication skill sets, particularly around sales. Leadership is essentially the same thing, but in the context of leading individuals or an organization. Embodiment is really leading yourself.
Right.
And embodiment, it's mindfulness, it's meditation, it's like influencing energy, it's doing breathing exercises. But actually, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like the practices are the tip of the iceberg of embodiment. The real embodiment is when the rubber hits the road during the day, in your interactions, in your meetings, in your conversations. And are you practicing, are you embodying your values in those moments? Like that's the real embodiment. That's the real practice.
Yeah, you're so spot on, man. And I love the approach, which is, to your point, this is all around conscious leadership, essentially, which is what we, after the show, I want to introduce you. Are you familiar with Stagen? Have I talked to you about this at all?
No. Nope.
To check out Stagen.com. Anyone in the audience, if you're a leader that really wants to like elevate, go. It's an integral leadership program. It's Stagen. It's unbelievable. And if you want information on it, hit me up.
You said integral leadership program?
Yeah, ILP. Stagen is the STAGEN. Ran. I know, buddy, I'm plugging you like crazy on this show. So I did this program. I'm a graduate of it. It's 52-week integral leadership program. It's around conscious leadership. My class had crazy people, former CEO of Crate and Barrel, president of Pier 1 Imports, the entire leadership team at Whole Foods, really amazing people. And it's a really cool program. And what you're touching on is what they touch on, which is how are you showing up, right? How are we showing up as leaders? And this is called level 5 leadership, right? How are we getting people to elevate? And the way is, some of it's through emulation, right? Is I'm gonna act the way I want those to act around me. I want to show up the way they need me to and teach them the practices of performance. And then you hit on something really interesting, that is this idea around growth at all costs. And I am the king of this. I mean, I traveled 192 days in the year 2018, and probably 2/3 of it had nothing to do with my family, right?
Yeah.
And so, and so what I realized, to your point, is that if you're not your best, right, that you can't get those around you to be their best, right? And so a lot of these tactical tools around self-management, whether it's breathing exercises, diet, meditation, sleep, all these things, you're just level setting yourself so that you can then perform, right?
Yeah.
But then once you've done that, are you conscious? Are you mindful of,
right,
of what you are when you are, right?
Is that a high performance practice there? But we're still just like, what is high performance? It's more and more, right? So is that just like a cheat code to achieving more, or is it actually grounding and rooting you in deeper purpose or meaning?
Yeah, it's funny, and I think a lot of it's also around we are what we measure, right? So so I actually think that there's a huge issue, and there's the whole movement going on in Scotland and in Europe right now around redefining GDP, how we measure GDP, because right now, if you look at it's a 100-year-old measurement, if not more, and we're not measuring things like inequality, we're not measuring things like childhood health, we're not measuring anything like happiness of children, we're not measuring things like connectivity. We're not measuring a lot of these things that are like really matter if you want to have a thriving society. We're measuring like, did we sell more fucking bags of bread? It's like that does not show you what's really happening. And we're seeing, I think that is why we're seeing a lot of divide right now socially, because we've been measuring the wrong things. And we're like, and then you have, leadership like we have right now in certain parts of the world that are pushing that, oh, we're doing amazing, we're the best, we're the greatest. I'm like, fuck no, we're not. Like, yeah, we're like, hey, dude, to your point, I could go get a credit card for calling, I don't know, $1 trillion and go and pump money into the system temporarily and have a great couple of years out of it. But I still got to pay that $1 trillion back. And as a society, better off on that $1 trillion I spent. What's my ROI on that $1 trillion I spent?
Right.
If the answer is that I have to borrow $1.2 trillion the next year, then the answer is I have a depreciating asset, right? So I think when you the more, to your point, is that I'm going to get super
Gary
authentic.
for President 2020.
That's what everyone keeps saying. I'm like, oh man, I've done way too much fucked up shit in my life.
2028, okay?
Yeah, it's going to be me and the
2032.
Dwayne Johnson. My middle name is John, so it'll be DJ.
Yeah, you can go up against Donald Trump Jr., right?
Oh, that'd be amazing. I would love. And when they start talking shit, I'll be like, why don't we just take it outside and fucking fight? And they'll be like, what? The president like nominee just challenged the other guy to a fucking fight. And I'll be like, I did. Like, let's just fucking brawl, dude.
What if it's Ivanka?
What's that?
What if it's Ivanka?
I would say then we could have like a water balloon fight.
Okay, that's great.
Because I don't, but I would smack it.
We can do better. What would it actually be? So if it's not a fight, maybe it's a water balloon fight. Maybe that is the best.
I actually don't think she would say stupid shit. I actually think she's the smartest one in the family.
Okay.
I think that she's supporting her dumbass dad, but I think that she's the smartest one in the family, and she's in a position where she has to support her dad. So I just think we'd have a spirited, like, verbal debate. Now his stupid sons, oh man, we'd be throwing down, or him. I'd be like, I'll hit you, old man. I don't care. I'm an old man.
I have some great visuals right now because we already established the visual of the ring, right? So
yeah. I was a wrestler in college, so like for me, like my always go-to is always like, well, we could fight if you want. Like I don't love to fight, but like I always know I can do that if I have to. So, but no, I don't think nobody wins in fighting unless you guys hug at the end of the fight, which I'm a fan of that too. Like,
totally. I don't know if we want to go down this tangent, but my buddy's experimenting right now and throwing these distanced wrestling matches in Oakland in a warehouse, right? Because there's this whole thing about like, how do we get back together in this climate? And so it's like these like crazy luchador underground wrestling matches in a warehouse.
Wait,
normally,
but how do you do a distance? Like the
exactly. I didn't show up to find out. I didn't go do any research, and I haven't checked in. He did it Saturday, so I have to check in and see how it went.
Well, you'll be happy to know that my 40th birthday, I had a full-blown lucha libre fight. Like we had a full-blown. We had 8 wrestlers, stage. Sweet. It was awesome. I'll send you pics. But
when next time you're out to the Bay, we can go check it out. We can go check out that distance wrestling match.
I would do that in a heartbeat. No, look, I think there is something to be said around people like, you know, like trading physical like energy, rather than all this shit talk. But like, and I do this, by the way, like when people troll this show, I invite them on the show. I go, why don't we get on the show? And they shut the fuck up because everyone likes to be quiet, and people are a little fucking like they're very courageous behind a keyboard.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that there's some. I actually think that goes away from what we're talking about, which is authenticity, rawness, being who you are, not being afraid to do this, living in your values. I feel like people have gotten very courageous around toxic behavior behind keyboards, and it takes away from what you're talking about.
It doesn't like. I mean, there's a place for commentary in like the marketplace, right? And in there being analysis of content, whatnot, but like it's not actually creating real value, right? No. And you know, and if the gift that you're practicing and getting better at is your critique of others' content, it's like, why don't you just go create something better then, if that's how you really feel? Like why don't you go, you know, take that perspective in life, because that's where the real value is created, and that's where the real learning is, you know. So
that's a great point. Is that and maybe that's part of the issue that we have with social media right now, is it is this fucking black hole of shit, right? Where there is not a lot of value being created. It's people selling ads. It's literally the worst television show of all time. If you think about it, it's like Jerry Springer, but where there's tons of commercials, and it is the most toxic episode of Jerry Springer you've ever watched. You know, and so
it's if there was an episode of Jerry Springer in the middle of the movie Idiocracy.
It is, and you're only watching Idiocracy to get to the Jerry Springer episode. and while you're there, you're getting hammered with Gatorade commercials because it makes it. What does it say? It
makes plants grow. Yeah,
it makes plants grow. Yeah,
electrolyte. It's what plants crave. Yeah, exactly.
It's what the plants crave. Dude, we're getting into the top of the hour here, but I just have one last question for you. And obviously, if you have any questions, we can bounce them off you. What would be your last meal on Earth?
My last meal on Earth.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I think it'd be a last experience. Like I wouldn't want to eat. Like I'd want. Yeah.
I heard that answer.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your last experience? You're done with it, and you get to have a meal at the end. So both.
Okay.
We'll
Cool.
do both.
So here's what the last experience is. There's a very special, secret, secluded beach in San Francisco that I like to throw parties at. And I would be throwing, I'd be DJing there. I'd be DJing some progressive house as the ships pass by, coming into the harbor, into the bay. And we would, if I knew this was the last experience on Earth, right? Then I was about to have my last meal. We would definitely go until sunrise, right? So we'd watch the sunrise, which I would DJ. And then, oh man, I'm not a very good food guy. I just want to say I'd eat some, like the same thing I eat for breakfast every day, which is raw meal, vitamin mineral green in a shaker bottle. I don't even have a better answer because
that's cool though. No. Maybe that's less important for you, but that's cool.
Yeah. And then for my last meal, I'd take a nap.
You know, I thought you should do a pig roast for all your party goers.
That would be super cool. That's a better idea. I like that.
Because while you were talking about that, I was pretending I was at the party because I actually know where you're talking about, having lived in San Francisco for almost 2 decades. Yeah. Didn't they used to do the first Burning Man there?
Maybe not. But
I know the general
talk about it just in case I end up trying to do one and I don't want to get caught. So
I was imagining myself there and I was like, oh, you got a pig roast. That'd
be really sick. And you definitely could. Yeah.
Totally. That's a great answer. We did get one last question, so we'll jump there and then we'll wrap up here. What would you tell someone who is struggling from burnout?
Someone who's struggling from burnout. So I would say that I've been on the hustle this summer. I just moved back to the city. I have been just launching a lot of new things in our organization. I've had a lot of work with our clients, which is exciting, and I'm really grateful for it. I'd rather have a lot of people to serve than not have people to serve. But I myself have kind of felt a little bit of burnout recently. And so I just said, all right, like I know that I am not going to be able to do my best work and add value to my family, to my team, to my co-creators, to my clients if I keep pushing right now. And so next week I'm taking the whole week off, and we're working to create a support system for my wife so that she can be. I mean, we have childcare during the day and things like that, but like I'm making sure that she's taken care of and me getting away, and I'm taking a week off. Don't even know where I'm going yet. Might just be me camping for a week without cell service. But I think when you're getting burnt out, honestly, I think the best thing you can do is just connect with nature. Like it's just get into the trees. I just know, I've just learned that if I get into trees and get into water, I get rejuvenated. I start to feel better. I start to find answers. My vision starts to come back online again. So if I feel that burnout, I get in nature, baby. That's my strategy. That's my simple answer.
I love that, dude. It's all about hugging trees and walking around barefoot in the redwoods. You should go to the redwoods, dude. That'd be cool.
Hopefully naked, but that has to be nobody around then, right?
You know what? There's a place called Antelope Lake right outside Tahoe that there's no cell service for an hour, and it's a really cool place to camp. I recommend it. It's a 5-hour drive, I think.
Yeah,
that might be a bit much with the baby, but I did it with a 1.5-year-old, and I did regret. I regretted being outdoors with the 1.5-year-old, but I have friends that go there. That's cool, man. It's great advice. I actually need to take some of it. I'm fucking fried right now. the book launch isn't helping. But hey, where can we find you? Where can people find you? And
Yeah. So, speaking of the dark hole of social media, we've stayed off of it mostly, but we are about to start launching our presence more. So you can find us at Instagram. I believe it's #@AbundantLeader. But I think the best place is just to go to abundantleader.com. So that's our site. And I know that links to all of our other social media. We're going to be launching a live stream here in September. And maybe that's maybe not our next conversation, but we can do like a continuation of this one on this conversation there.
Yeah, man, I feel like you and I could talk for hours. My book comes out September 15th, so I'd love to
awesome.
promote the book launch there.
That would be great.
Ben, man, thank you so much for being on the show, bro.
Thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, if you don't mind, when we get off live stream, just stay on because
Yep.
I forgot to mention that on the show. But guys, what a treat. So much learning done with Ben here today. That was so fun. I feel like he and I could go for hours, and this was a really cool conversation. I can't wait to our next one. Maybe we'll live stream from the distance Lucha Libre in Oakland.
Oh, we definitely should. That would be awesome.
By the way, I have a really juicy piece of advice. If you ever, when we are not social distancing anymore, and people have parties who should be having parties, as I know people have these stupid COVID parties. If you ever want to see people get really weird, buy about 50 Lucha Libre masks and hand them out at the door of your party for 50 people that are there that don't know you're having a Lucha Libre party. And people, when they put those masks on, do tons of weird shit. I
love it.
It's a really good way to watch people get weird. Which I'm a big fan of. That's probably what should be one of my core values. Get weird.
Lucha Libre mask and coconut oil, and just see what happens.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Follow me on @TheRealDariusM on Facebook so you can watch more of these shows. We got another show this afternoon with Nathaniel Chalkin, who's a fucking animal badass coach. He does shadow work. You got to watch him, Ben. He's all about spiral dynamics. You'll love him. And go to my website, www.therealdarius.com. Sign up for all the social media, swiggity swaggity. And dude, the book's coming out. We're in the countdown 5 weeks from Wednesday. I'm like, my brain hurts, but I'm on like this hardcore path to burning out, making it big. And then I'm taking a break. So we'll see you guys later. Thanks for having us. Thanks for following us, and we'll talk soon. Late.